Sure, sure. So the series is about to begin. We have mirror matchups with Druid, Warlock, and Hunter for both. Tides putting on the war paint, getting his game face ready, and Brad, he has his Gunners. That is a sponsor of his team's organization, and he's going to start off very nicely with the Wild Growth and an Innervate start.
Yep.
Ooh.
Having both of those in your opening hand is certainly a blessing as far as Druid is concerned. Two cards.
Especially against Zoo. If he picks up something like a Keeper of the Grove, how
well,
good
Zoo,
would that be?
That's where this deck really starts to shine, and this is something I wanted to touch on, is when you're playing against Warlock, Wild Growth is a really good card, but in this matchup, Keeper of the Grove it just shines in both the Zoo matchup and in the Handlock matchup. It's such an important card. Where Wild Growth, it's good. It's definitely something you welcome, but I don't think it's as good as having extra. It's like having extra chances at hitting Keeper. Wow, he hits Keeper anyway.
That is a perfect curve. You have the Azure Drake on turn 3. You have the Keeper of the Grove on turn 4. And that is a really weak start for Tides of Time.
He's gonna have He's gonna have a Soulfire for this Azure Drake. But oh my gosh,
you just Brad curves so nicely. Are you kidding me? That's amazing for a start for DTMR Brad.
Yep. This is gonna get disrupted a little bit though. Ooh, Egg comes into the hand. Yep, I think you definitely make this play.
He loses one of the Dark Iron Dwarfs, which I think he can live with, considering that having Defender of Argus also makes it very versatile if your opponent can't deal with it immediately.
Right. And so this is like another tool that's been added to kind of help make the Druid. Oh my gosh, another Innervate. To make the Druid matchup even that much harder for Druid is, does he silence this Egg with the Keeper?
Honestly, I think so. There's too many ways to activate it, and you're effectively dealing 4 damage instead of 2.
Honestly, right now I'd like to see him just hero power the 2/1. I think it's really important. This really helps against cards like Dark Iron Dwarf, Abusive Sergeant, and against Defender of Argus.
I think so too.
Yeah, pretty critical draw, all things considered.
I think for Tides to come back to this game, his opponent has to kind of run dry soon, but Brad does have an Azure Drake to keep the card count going, and he has Force of Nature to kind of remove.
Wow, and he keeps drawing big minions. Now, this is another decision to make. I think I would go with the Azure Drake here, but I think there's some real merit to playing Joe and Yeti.
Wow. All right, well, he's picking up lots of answers to whatever his opponent can do. Tides picks up Direwolf Alpha number 2. That's not exactly the most appealing one.
Yeah, I
think it's
just
slightly off curve. That's annoying.
Wow, I don't know what you do here. I think you life tap. Soulfire feels like it's so important, and so does digging the Doomguard. Just none of these plays are any good right now.
Yeah. Direwolf Alpha doesn't actually do anything, and Defender of Argus is super weak. And Zoo really is supposed to thrive on these early turns. Like, turn 5 is normally just, like, the turns 1 through 5 are just so powerful from Zoo to stop, but Tides had nothing on turn 2. His turn 3 was kind of mediocre, and now at this stage on turn 5, he's just kind of barely trying to breathe. His opponent, he really hopes his opponent doesn't have something like Swipe to continue putting on pressure, but his opponent's got even more. He's got Force of Nature clears, he's got Argent Commander, he's got Ancient of Lore!
Oh my gosh. This game, I think, is snowballed out of control for Tides. I don't see him putting together a combination of cards that make a significant impact here, because not only has he lost board control, but his opponent is also at 26 life. So he is really fighting from behind here to make a difference.
At this stage, Brad has everything he needs. He's got every single thing he needs. Karen is cool, but at the same time, you can just pretty much do whatever you want. I mean, Zoo can still climb back. It's not like it's over yet, but this is very difficult to come back from if you're in Tides' position.
He's considering using the Force Nature here. Like, how important are his 2 health minions? But I think you just continue to trade, and then you drop either Karen or you drop the Ancient Allure. I think I'd like to see Karen more. I think Karen's better here also, because if you're in the weird case that your opponent draws a Doomguard, like, there's just no way they swing the game back.
Yeah, I like Ancient of Lore as a stealer as well. At the same time, it draws into so many of the important things. Oh, he's gonna heal
Whoa.
immediately.
He's gonna heal one of
Really?
his minions. He's gonna heal his Azure Drake.
Okay. Choosing to heal. I guess in
Huh.
a sense it's like drawing another card off of a
Yep.
minion in a sense. So that
Yeah,
way,
you draw 4/1 onto the board. So I mean, this is kind of. I don't think it really. At the end of the day, I don't think it matters too much. This is a clever play, and it really is sticking it to his opponent. Like if he draws Savage or Tides is in really bad shape, but he's in really bad shape. I think either way. There's a lot of different ways you could have played that turn, and I think they all kind of lead to the same road.
I agree. I think it's very difficult for Tides to kind of respond immediately. Zoo has to kind of use its minions as its premium spells. I don't really think Tides is running something crazy like the Shadow Flame's Power Overwhelming, although it is a possibility, and he
Yep,
could
I
be
like just
top
going with
decking
base
it.
here. Yep, now's the
Even
time to go
so,
aggressive.
yeah. Even so, Tides still has to get through a Cairn, and Brad actually does represent lethal this next turn. Black Knight is an interesting
Wow,
card to have.
that's a choice that we haven't seen in a while coming into
Mhm.
these decks. But I think it's a good one though. If you can force your opponent to taunt up going into these later turns, that can just absolutely blow the game wide open. Yeah, I want to get excited for Tides, but Frank, I just don't see a series. Like I don't believe it. I don't see a series of plays that are going to put together a win here.
And I think you just have to kind of taunt up with the remaining tokens you have. Hope he doesn't have something like Swipe. And just basically hope for the best. But that's all he's kind of relegated to at this stage. All right. Back to Brad. And see what he top decks. Does he get something like Force of Nature to even end the game directly? Wow, Black
that's
Knight
not a
for
bad one.
himself. Heyo.
Not a bad one. Do you even need to show that though? I guess your opponent assumes you have it often anyway, so not really any consequence to showing it.
I think at this point he feels really comfortable. 27 health. Very unlucky for him to kind of fall out from this position. Tides top decks Doomguard, which would have been nice a lot earlier to at least pull him back into the pressure game. But he's kind of missed some really crucial turns to kind of turn the matchup on its head.
Yep. The important thing to consider here is he's got to think about how his opponent responds, because if he doesn't start clearing this board, he's just facing lethal from a very wide range.
Ah, well,
Ooh.
Soulfire top deck. Let's see, can that change anything?
He can leave his opponent. He can leave his opponent with just a Harvest Golem.
With a damage golem, you mean, right?
No, he can actually he can Soulfire the Cairn
Yep.
and then attack the Cairn. So like the Cairn will turn into the Bane token, and then he attacks the Bane token. And he leaves his opponent with just the.
Wait,
Oh,
but you
we
can
can
just
stack
leave the
that
you
one
just leave
too.
the damage golem. Yep.
I see. You use the
Yeah.
Direwolf Alpha. I wasn't considering actually sacrificing your Direwolf Alpha.
Well, you want to limit the damage as much as
Yeah.
possible. At the same time, the Harvest Golem represents the same amount of damage as a damage golem, so maybe you don't go for that in respect to it.
Yep. There's a lot of different sequences you can do here to get to this board state.
Okay. Well, let's see if his opponent's be able to draw the lethal he has. He has 7 damage from the hand with Hero Power and Force of Nature. Okay, so he doesn't have it just yet.
Yeah, but no shot of lethal from Tides' side of the board in
No.
this coming turn.
I mean,
Even Leroy Power Overwhelming wouldn't do it.
do you feel like you can just comfortably go for face here, or just? I think at that point you don't really have to.
I think you kill the Direwolf Alpha. This is fine as well. Again, it's just like the sequence of plays that he decides to take to get there doesn't really make that much of a difference.
Sure. Optimal play doesn't really matter when you have this much brute force to just kind of shove down your opponent. And I think that's it, right? Tides has enough, Brad has enough right now to burst through with the Force of Nature play, and he's going to take game number 1. Now, granted, he did run out of a lot of gas here at the end, but he just got what he needed. He had an Ancient of War, too, so I guess in the end he wouldn't truly be out of gas because he does have big,
Right.
fat minions to chew through.
It's important that he doesn't show that Ancient of War too. It's good news for him.
Definitely. Tides drops the first game, and Brad secures a really important...
And I think that factors a lot into him playing Zoo.
I completely agree. So Tides is now down to his Druid and his Hunter. And I think we're ready for game number 2 to jump straight into it and find out what happens for Tides. He's going to go with the Druid Mirror, and it seems to be more of the token nature. Okay, the Violet Teacher and the Haunted Creeper to start things off. Now, Brad had pretty much the ideal start, as much as you... I can't even really imagine a sequence of draws that would have been a little bit better than how he responded to Zoo. Other than maybe grabbing something like a swipe with the spell power of the Azure Drake. But other than that, I think Brad had the ideal start. Let's see how it's going to work out for him this game.
Yeah, stuff like Keeper of the Grove is really important in that matchup. And then, of course, he had Innervate to go with it. So, I mean, that's what you have to... That's part of the combination of cards you need to really take an edge in that matchup. So when you draw them, I think you're doing well. But outside of that, you struggle a lot to keep in the game.
Okay, so Tides does have Black Knight, which is also another really swingy card in this matchup. Definitely a very important thing to kind of know. The second Black Knight?
Yeah, well, 2 decks have 2 Black Knights now.
Oh! I was like, what? There's 2 Black Knights? You totally tripped me out for a second. I was like, what? Okay. Yeah. It seems like he's I mean, Black Knight makes sense for a Druid, just because how you're able to kind of respond. You're expecting Druid mirrors all the time too. Yep. It does kind of perform worse against Miracle, but if you're choosing to ban Miracle anyways.
I think part of his decision to play it too is with how much that Sludge Belcher he anticipates getting played. So he wants to have a little bit more counterplay to that as well.
Sure. Makes sense. Gives another way to target something. I think also if you see stuff like Chillwind Yeti, you absolutely know it's not token, which means Black Knight saving in the hand over time can also pay off big dividends.
Right.
Because maybe they run Sunwalkers. Maybe you don't necessarily have to guarantee that they run something like Ancient of War, but you can kind of make that interpretation. Maybe it's good.
Wow, and look at this. Now Tides has his own Innervate draw. But Brad's got Innervate too.
Oh man, if he top decks something like the Black Knight? No.
Well, Karen is still pretty strong here.
Yeah, you force your opponent to have something immediately.
Yep.
But then Defender of Argus. That's an interesting card to include in the Druid as well. Huh. Especially the token Druid, which it kind of gives the ability to just build the board and stuff, but it's just interesting that Defender of Argus is the tech choice here for Tempo.
Yeah, it says a lot about that he wants to take advantage of the fact that he's going to be left with just 2 1/1 tokens or a 2/1 and a 1/1 very often. He doesn't want him just stranded there on the board. So it feels like a good include. I'm curious how he chose to trim the deck for room with cards like that, or for room for cards like that.
Well, let's see what kind of continues to develop. Brad kind of wondering whether or not he should attack, bring down that life earlier, so that way it makes it really difficult to kind of attack into Cairn.
I think attacking here is a little bit worse. It allows your opponent to get more value out of their Druid of the Claw, and at the same time also allows them to get value out of the Spider immediately.
Also, not to mention, your opponent can kind of just swipe and make it really difficult. Well, Tides does end up top decking that swipe.
Wow. This game is getting crazy.
Yeah, so he does have an answer to it. Keep in mind, he still also has his Violet Teacher in the back pocket. But I think picking up immediate kill on Karen with the Defender of Argus is too good to pass up.
Yep. This is a pretty big board he's put together. With just a couple of cards. I think you definitely attack this Harvest Golem. Or the Damage Golem, rather.
Same difference, honestly. Sometimes it's like the same thing anyways. Harvest Golem is just so sticky and annoying. And now as the tables have turned, how often do the Harvest
Defender of Argus.
Yeah.
Huh. Of all the cards that we were considering, this is why it's in here. I mean, obviously he's played with this before and has been in this spot. He's not just like throwing this in his deck and being like, I think this would be good. There's a reason that this Defender of Argus is in here and it's shining at this turn. And Brad, no swipe. That's a tough spot to be in.
Swipe would have been beautiful.
Right.
Absolutely beautiful. He would have been able to go for a full board clear. But he's going to have to use a Wrath and see what he draws off of that. And even so, these Haunted Creepers have done so much work. They're able to kind of force this Bane into a bad trade and kind of follow it up with more damage. So he gets an Ancient of Lore with the draw. So he's got pretty good card quality in his hand.
This is tough.
All right, well, back to tides.
I think there's some merit to just attacking your opponent there. He
And
knows his
forcing
opponent's playing
trade.
token, so the thing that he's thinking about is how to keep his opponent's board under control, and that's where the difference is coming in. Wow, second ancient, but that's not very strong right now.
It'll be soon. It will be though for the following turns if you can kind
Yeah.
of put ancients back to back together.
The Violet Teacher's not that bad here either because it forces your opponent to use 2 mana, so it's throwing off their mana a bit. So it's keeping him off of a 5 mana play if he wants to take out this Violet Teacher.
Yeah, and you obviously save the coin right there, so people can say,
Right.
"Oh, you can clear it," but you want to have really powerful back-to-back turns.
Right. His goal is to keep his opponent from playing a 5-drop or a 6-drop here by threatening to have a lot of value come from this Violet Teacher.
Okay, well,
As
Brad
a
will
result
play
of
his
that-
keeper.
Yep. This is actually a pretty strong play from Tides here, too. As a result of this, he gets the first Ancient on the board, and I think the first person to get an Ancient Lore on the board typically has an advantage.
Oh, absolutely. These power cards and these power cards in mirror matchups, whether it's the Ancient of Lores, whether it's like the Savannah Highmanes and Mid-Range Hunter, they just dictate the entire pace of the rest of the game. Things
Yep.
just get snowball. You have to respond to it, and they get to choose the terms of which they battle.
Yep. Ooh, Lotheb. That's going to prevent some big swipe turns from happening, potentially.
Lotheb and Token Druid, by the way, is so nasty on turn 8. Just how if you're able to set up a board, because then they can't really spend stuff to remove, and then you have the combo afterwards. Like, it's just so disgusting. Like, I try playing it a lot, and it just fits so naturally. Like, I know Lotheb obviously fits in a lot of decks, but just kind of iterating how powerful it is for a common use and how your opponent's supposed to respond to it, especially in these mirrors. They're just, like, Lotheb is lights out.
Do you risk this 5/10 here? It feels really risky. I mean, we can see that he's got Black Knight, but he's got to weigh his options. Like how powerful is a silence against this? How powerful is a Black Knight against this? Can my opponent just push through it? Can I afford to get Black Knighted this turn? Like I don't think he can. This is one of those turns where it feels like if he gets Black Knighted, he's going to end up falling way behind.
Yep. Oh, but he's
my
hovering
gosh.
over it.
Oh,
That's
geez.
going to be devastating.
Hard
to say. Okay.
Yeah, it's really tough.
Because now the problem still presents itself the following turn.
Yeah.
Where his opponent has the second Ancient of Lore.
Well, as your board becomes a little bit stronger, you're able to take a few more hits on these swings because your board can be resilient. But if you have just nothing on the board, like getting a big swing turn against you is, I mean, that's what spells lights out.
Okay, second Ancient of Lore coming down for Tides. He draws
Wow,
double
two
keeper.
keepers. I don't know how you play this turn. Like how important is 5 damage on your opponent's face? Because you've drawn so many cards now that you can just represent lethal and combo.
And force your opponent to trade. Give
Right.
your
So when you make a play like this, it does give your opponent a little bit better of idea of how range you have. And the other thing too is it's opening him up to just being wrathed and then traded. And I feel like that's much better for his opponent right now because he's playing a more aggressive oriented deck. Tides is.
Just kind of realizing that Tides has like a pair of everything, pretty much. Pair of 5
Yep.
drops, double swipe, double keeper. All right, well, Tides will have to also deal with the Argent Commander, but he does have the Keepers of the Grove immediately to answer once again. So he's got these ways to respond very efficiently. And not like Brad's been able to kind of push back and threaten any kind of combo. So I think Tides is still feeling pretty decent.
This is actually some pretty clever deck building here from Brad too. He's got 5/10s with Argent Commanders, and one of his goals in this Druid Mirror, I think, is to bait out these Keepers of the Grove after he's gotten value from these Argent Commanders, so that way he can more safely land Ancient of War and isn't facing down the threat of a silence.
Huh. Interesting. So the hybrid actually ends up working out so that it fools your opponent to using removal that they should have used otherwise. Okay.
Because it's so easy to keeper right here.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, he should be keepering here. I think this is a great spot to keeper. None of his other plays look too appealing. I actually don't mind making a 3/2 here either.
There is this case, though, that Token Druid has to continue to start building the board from this state, though. You have so many cards. At the same time, he hasn't drawn a single piece to combo, so it's not like he can... Ooh, second keeper. So it's not like he can keep just playing
If he
really
uses the
reactive.
second keeper, right? If he uses the second keeper here, I almost certainly Brad's going to play the 5-10. I think.
Oh, and he does double keeper. But then we also know what that Ancient of War is going to provoke from Tides. So how does Brad respond to that?
He's got a couple of options though. He may not. He may actually still be reluctant to use this Ancient. Wow, he's going to be.
He's playing it super safe.
Yeah, I'll say.
Very control oriented. Swipe top deck allows him to clear.
I don't know if he's still going to use it though.
Hmm.
These spots are so weird. Like neither of them really have like strong plays. It's just like trading that's happening on the board.
Yeah,
I do
they're
agree
not
you should be
terribly
using this
honest.
2-1. I don't know if using the keeper there is better than using the swipe though. It probably is. You just want the extra body on the board, I think.
All right, we'll see what Tide's able to get. He top decks Savage Roar. He has double swipe to kind of follow this up. No, instead he just low
Oh,
thebs.
jeez.
Low theb to take control of the board and force his opponent to kind of do something besides just play reactive with spells. Does it come out now?
I don't know. I still think I feel like he still feels safe paying life to clean up this board with cards like Argent Commander, but Argent Commander's so unexciting when your opponent's got a 2/4 already. He's trying so hard to not get blown out by Black Knight. His instincts are just spot on here.
A 9-mana swipe. Oh, wow. No, there's no way you can utilize swipe effectively here. There's no way.
I don't think you swipe here.
Certainly not. Alternatively, anything you kind of drop as a minion that can't immediately fight back other than this Argent Commander will just kind of get destroyed immediately. So if you drop Drake, it doesn't really improve your position that much at all. Because you can't follow it up with anything else. A BGH coming out. I mean, it makes sense. Token Druids don't often run anything worth using the BGH
Oh wow,
for.
look at this. I feel like you've committed to that plan already.
Okay, a moment of indecision from Brad. So he ends up picking up the immediate value and then forcing Lotheb to kind of make a hard decision.
If Tides draws spell power here. Wait a minute. 14 plus 7. Oh,
That's 21. If he had to innervate, he had the power of the wild for lethal.
wow. How does he make a push this turn? Because he's got to consider his opponent's Savage Roars as well.
Sure. You do have a swipe, and you can deal with it. You also just can use a Force of Nature for a very logical clear. And be able to kind of deal with everything very efficiently.
I think this is very reasonable.
Okay. Putting more presence on the board.
Yep.
And yeah, basically keep pushing. Force your opponent to kind of use other stuff. And I think the Lotheb, the longer he stays on, it's fine. That Force of Nature.
This is also still lethal next turn if his opponent doesn't taunt up or clear this board.
That's right. That's right. He has a swipe and the Savage Roar.
Yep.
Oh, but he does have that spell power swipe, and that is huge.
Yep, that was the only downside of this play was spell power swipe.
But his
I
opponent
think
can
it
kind of
was.
keep responding to it, though.
Yeah, Tide should be... I think he should be charging this turn.
I think so, too.
Yep.
You are the token druid. You are trying to be the aggressor.
I was going to go with Big Game Hunter instead. This is also really nice. It puts a lot of pressure on the board. Oh, this is a more hidden lethal, too, actually. Because now he still has lethal. He's still threatening lethal next turn.
Oh my
with Druid of the
goodness.
Claw charge and then Savage Roar. Yeah, this is actually...
That's really clever once again. That's really intelligent. I think Ty's making a really strong back-to-back plays. I think Brad, at this point, he saw a Force of Nature, but, I mean, how confident do you feel against it? Because you just... Like, if you show a Force of Nature that willingly, maybe he has a second one.
Using Wild Growth. Yeah, he's still fearing Black Knight. He wants a way to play around Black Knight.
Huh?
Again, his instincts are just spot on, but he's just not getting it.
Cenarius, that's pretty good. So now you can put up 2 taunts.
That's only 12 points of damage from Tides.
Tides needs a way to kind of respond to it.
Wow.
But do you play the... Oh, I guess he's going for the
I
Black
don't, you
Knight
don't
right
have an
here.
option. I don't think. You have to
Yeah.
I mean, you've committed so hard to making a push at this point. You've got to make something happen.
Sure. And
I
at
think
this
this still might be
stage...
enough, actually, though.
Huh?
This might still be enough.
Even if you play the Black Knight? Or if you play Ancient of Lore after the Black Knight?
We'll just have to count it. So 4, 10, 1, 2. He's going to be a little bit short, I think. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wow, I think he's going to be 1 damage off lethal.
Oh, don't say it like that. Don't say it like that, Admirable.
Okay, so Harvest Golem and Big Game Hunter can trade into this 5-10. And then he's got 4 plus 1 plus 6.
So basically, Force of Nature is still the doctor ordered. Wait.
Wait, no, he's got a hero
Wait.
power too.
Wait.
He's got 4 plus 6 plus 1 plus 1.
That's 12. Last time I checked.
Oh my gosh. He's counting it up. I think that's perfect lethal.
I think so as well. I think so. That's exactly the push through. The Wrath, you don't really even need to. Wait, hold on. One more time. So you have the 9.
Yeah,
plus,
that's lethal.
Plus the 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do have the lethal. So Ty just
my
needs to see it and
gosh.
piece it together.
Oh my
You're absolutely
gosh.
right.
What to do?
Oh no, does he not see
Oh
it?
my gosh.
Does he not see it?
Tides. Tides, you have to count it. Oh my gosh, Tides.
Not like this. You can't miss it.
Oh, I think he sees it.
Okay. Here we go.
Oh, he sees it.
There we go. Well, and
Math
you know,
is
you
hard.
can even just use Wrath if you want to. You can just Wrath for 3. You can push through the Harvest Golem, and it's the same consequence either way.
Okay. The point is he's got lethal.
Yeah. Actually, with the Wrath, he's got lethal way covered. He's got 14. So he's able to kind of push through. I don't know what he was spending a lot of time thinking about. Maybe trying to psych out his opponent or something. But
When you have time, you might as well just count it, because if you miscount in a spot like this, you're really going to regret it. So
Absolutely.
I can never fault anyone for taking their time in a tournament match
That
to
was
make sure
close,
they count
though.
it right.
down to the last second of the rope.
Yep.
Just making sure. And Tides has evened up the series. And with Side of Time versus Brad, winner gets the last semifinal spot in the winner's bracket. The loser will drop down to face Reels in the lower bracket. Okay, so it is the Hunter.
Yep. I like going with Hunter here. This tells me his last deck is probably Zoo.
Okay. Now, Hunter versus the Token Druid still can feel like you're fighting against something similar to Zoo, where every turn they're building up something. It becomes a little bit increasingly more difficult. You still want something like Unleash the Hounds to kind of respond to your opponent. You mulligan Freezing Trap and you get back Freezing Trap. Such is life with Hearthstone, especially with something like Hunter. Man.
It's not the worst pickup in the world, but he's
No.
fishing for something else.
Ah,
I
well,
like keeping the Buzzard here because one of the, again, as you were talking about, one of the key cards is Unleash the Hounds. So he wants to have access to Buzzard Unleash basically as quickly as possible.
definitely. Web Spinner also presents quite the conundrum of what it could represent and what it could threat.
Look at these little spiders. This looks like a spider deck now.
Yeah,
going
I
on?
thought this was about beasts and the
What does he
wild.
draw? This is always just such a sweet part, the Web Spinner draw.
Maybe a 3-drop of some kind. Maybe like a... Oh, it gets the Jungle Panther. I was going to say something crazy like the Silverback Patriarch, but this is much better.
Yeah, that is much better. Wow. Oh, and a keeper picked up from Tides.
That's nice.
Brad's going to feel really safe behind this Freezing Trap, and that keeper's going to do a lot of work. Wow! Savannah Highmane!
Okay, well, he can't play that for 2 more turns, but that is
I
a very
can-
important card to have. So you bait out the Keeper, so that way he can't use it on the Savannah Highmane. Seems like a good game plan.
It looks like he wants a tracking first. Which I would find it very shocking to tracking here. I think he's just Freezing Trap Hero Power and attack him for 5. It's such an aggressive play, and you get to use your tracking next turn
Yep.
to like find a shuffle 4-drop like a Houndmaster. I think it's really oversighted to be using that here. Oh my gosh, he finds a bow though.
Yeah, and the bow he can pick up immediate value with, and the fact that he's able to use Freezing Trap to extend its life with more charges and durability. So
Pretty
it's
fortunate.
all worked out. Maybe that's exactly what he wanted.
Is he? Is he considering not attacking with his Tiger?
At this stage, I'm not exactly sure because Brad has shown that he's willing to play around almost everything. But I like the game plan of baiting out a Keeper of the Grove.
Wow, he's just going everything to the dome.
So ham. That's crazy.
Holy guacamole.
Man, what does that kind of telecommunicate?
I guess that he just wants to punch him to death. Jeez, Alou.
Well, Tides also has the Violet Teacher coin Power of the Wild the following turn to potentially do some good stuff.
I don't really understand that at all. It's so like against its game plan, I feel like.
I wonder if he's trying to sell that he's playing aggro. No, there's no way. I don't think so. Maybe there's some kind of the next level stuff where you sell what your opponent's doing, but
Wow,
it just seems at this point Tides is just going to respond with a very powerful swing and basically relegate to the point where his opponent has to draw something like Unleash the Hounds to deal with this immediately.
Yep, and this is sort of the consequence of playing overly aggressive at times, though. Is that you can find yourselves in these sorts of positions.
Well, he still might be able to get himself out here. Flare can still keep him alive. Okay, well, he's going to go with Savannah Highmane and immediately trade. Fair enough. All is well.
So he's got a decent board position, but his opponent gets to trade back the Savannah Highmane for basically exactly how he wants to do it.
Right.
He's going to be Keeper to Silence and then use a Wrath and the token to follow up. So I think that Tides feels very comfortable here. Brad's down to 2 cards. And Tides is still at 20, and he's got an Ancient Allure in his hand and plenty of gas to keep the pedal to the metal.
Yep.
I think this aggressive play from Brad may have been a little bit too much. I'm all for aggressive play, but this was a lot. That's the combo he needs
When
to pick up.
Admirable's telling you that maybe it's a little too much aggro, you know maybe you overstepped a little bit.
I mean, I'm a fan of attack in the face pretty much every opportunity you get. But I mean, he sacrificed so much to do it in this position, and when he, especially, it's not even that like it's not that I just always like to attack my opponent's face. It's that I like to put my opponent in pressured situations. But when your opponent is going into 4 open mana and you're leaving your board vulnerable against a very valuable expendable minion, it's not the kind of position that you want to be in. And so now that he's in this spot, he's very committed to continuing that path because every single step of the way that he's battling to make these cards back up, he's finding himself in a spot where even if he gets back to even, now he's at even. He's not ahead of the game anymore. So these couple of draws panning out really well.
Wow.
I think Leok is a pretty good one. But again, Tides has got swipe. He's got everything he needs to just clean these positions up.
That is true. It allows him to answer very efficiently. Still, like, Brad doesn't have to use his Hunter's Mark. He doesn't have to. How much do you value the charge on the bow?
I don't know. I think it's like, how many more traps are in your deck? Like, do you really...
I like keeping Hunter's Mark. It's very versatile. You have stuff like Stone Tusk Bora, which normally doesn't actually do anything unless it just pushes for that little extra damage or enable kill command. You actually have the flexibility of both. I like saving Hunter's Mark here.
I like saving it too, but it's not like a... I'm not thrilled to save it, that's for sure.
Okay, back to
hedging his
Tides.
bets against swipe. I like hedging his bets against swipe.
Yeah.
But again, now that he's put in this position, like how does he recover? Now he has nothing left. He has nothing left to gain an advantage. He's just got like 4 singular good cards.
Well, he's got tracking. Maybe he can top deck something really nice and then pair it with tracking.
He needs to fetch something like Savannah Highmane, I think.
Animal Companion. That actually can bite him in the butt if it's Misha. Lotheb and Houndmaster are 2 choices that he can also go with, but I think Lotheb's too good to pass up relative to what you want to do to your opponent.
Yep.
Lotheb and Animal Companion here.
I think you have to Animal Companion. He's going to Animal Companion first. Ooh, if he makes a safe minion. Actually, it makes a lot of sense to Animal Companion first, because if you roll this, now you can consider kill commanding. I like that a lot.
Okay. Ooh, it's still, it's more defensive versus the more aggressive approach. And all of a sudden, Brad shifted gears completely. It was just a couple of turns ago where he just went all face with everything he had.
He might have gotten blinded by the Jungle Panther. It was such an easy 4 points of damage. But now I think it's It's just kind of rough. He didn't want to get blown out by Keeper of the Grove, but he left himself in a position where a lot larger range of things
Sure, sure.
ended up being a problem.
Second eagle horn bow, so he does end up running 2. And Brad's kind of just expending all of his resources here in order to kind of do what he has to do. But Hunter's usually put on this spot. I wonder if Brad is also playing like a finisher like Leroy in his deck. Keep in mind that Brad and Tides, or actually just in general, Brad has also kind of hit a lot of members of Tempest Storm recently, so they've been discussing a lot of his decks back even at the Prismatic Cup. So maybe they have a lot of that intel. Innervate's not what you want to see post-load them.
Black Knight is a 6-mana Chill and Yeti. Not too bad.
Not
Still
bad,
4
plus
five.
he used both animal companions. He can't really Houndmaster at this point on what's on the board. So I think you just Black Knight here for the power.
Ooh.
Wow, that Hunter's Mark with the Unleash will clean up everything, though.
Yeah, I think you got a Hunter's Mark here.
Yep. Hunter's Mark, you still have Deadly Shot to take out one last big threat, say it's another Ancient of Lore.
Definitely save the Deadly Shot. Deadly Shot is not worth a 1/1 in it. No, this is... Oh, no. No, your opponent's going to hero power it. Your opponent's going to hero power it. Let it go.
The 1 damage isn't worth it. It depends on what his outs are, right? I guess it does.
I think it matters if your opponent plays another 5/5 here. You're just gonna you're gonna hate the fact that you used your Deadly Shot over your Hunter's Mark.
I think Hunter's Mark is it's too much to pass up. All right, well, Tides. Let's see what he top decks here. He gets the Haunted Spider, so I think he kind of has to respond immediately with Force of Nature. Doesn't want to kind of leave his opponent anyway to kind of top deck that lethal.
Yep. Brad's actually found himself ahead though. It's not by a very significant margin, but he's slightly ahead.
Do you play this as a 3/2, kind of push out damage, or do you you hero power to kind of gain
I think
life?
it's probably... I think it's probably better to hero power.
Well, one thing's
Not-
for sure.
It's not like a significant margin. I don't think he could just do both too. Like how much value is he going to get from Innervate?
That's true. Unless he top decks Ancient of Lore, that's the only way he kind of benefit off of it. Okay. Well, he's gonna just save the Innervate and see if that pays off for him.
Yep.
Meanwhile, that Deadly Shot is looking pretty bad, but a top deck Oasis Snapjaw isn't so bad.
Ironically, Oasis Snapjaw is actually really good here. You just need something to stay on the board.
Azure Drake is nice
wow.
for Tides. And a second Force of Nature, which allows him to trade.
He's got lethal next turn.
But then,
Yeah,
if his
9
opponent top
points.
decks Leroy, his opponent has lethal.
Oh my gosh.
This is a gamble for Tides either way. If Brad has a Leroy, he has lethal.
I don't think that you can use a Force Nature on a turtle. I don't think you can do that.
God, how miserable do you feel if you have to do that, though? Doesn't even fully kill it. Tides is going for it.
I would not use... I would go for it. I 100% agree with this. He's actually considering suiciding this spider in to get more tokens for...
The power of the wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a smart consideration. I like that he's at least thinking about it.
Freezing trap for Brad. Deadly Shot could be MVP here.
He needs this Deadly Shot. to hit
Oh
that
my
strike.
god. He's gonna leave it up to a 50-50.
Oh my gosh. I don't think he has an option.
Oh, the moment.
Oh
He's
jeez.
hovering over it. He knows. That's a good.
No!
That's it.
Oh my gosh. And the freezing
Wow.
trap. The freezing trap's gonna save him.
Wait, let's see. Let's see.
Because this would still be lethal. It would be 9+2. The freezing
Right.
trap saved
You're
him.
right. The freezing trap
Oh
is
my
exactly what
gosh.
Dr. ordered. He's gonna power the wild first too. On its creatures, but then if so, then he needs to.
He knows
Hmm.
he's playing explosive trap, but now he's thinking about if it's misdirection or if it's freezing trap. What happens? How do I decide to trade afterwards?
Wow. I'm still kind of blown away that like this deadly shot has kept him in the game once again.
Also, 1 damage off lethal too. Like he can attack with the spider first, put 9 into his opponent's face, then hero power.
Savage roar! That's it! He just attacks, triggers it, he
Check the
interrupts
trap!
out the savage
Wait,
roar.
wait! Tides, check the trap! What?
Oh my god.
is happening?
Wait. No! Tides! He had innervate combo!
Wait,
Oh
are we?
man!
No,
What
he's-
just happened? No! Oh, wow, he gives his opponent 1 out. He's got 7 damage. He just needs to draw 3 more. He could draw with another kill command or something like that.
Oh my
Leroy
God.
finished. Oh, I think Ty just realized what he did. That is bad news. What if Brad top decks the way to win? This series could be completely reinvented. No, he gets Savannah High main, so it doesn't matter. But oh my god, that was so close. Wow, way to kind of make it interesting, Tides. Bravo. If that was what you were going for, you are a true maestro, the ultimate BM.
Well, I think
Between these two players. Now, I think Tides kind of has settled down because at the very end, he sat back in his chair, realizing he almost lost. So he's like, "Okay, whew, still can do this."
yeah. Take it. You got to slow down. That's a spot that you cannot put yourself in over and over again.
Now, Tides picks up 2 very important cards: Innervate and the Keeper of the Grove. Brad's going to be playing the Zoo deck. And that kind of start with the Keeper that allows you to go 3 for 1 sometimes is your ticket to stabilize the early game. Giving you enough time to kind of put out really important creatures. Violet Teacher, so that way you can keep trading efficiently.
These are some pretty solid hands too. This Zoo hand looks a little bit weird, but honestly, I don't think it's that bad. Like I think a 4/2 is just totally fine in this matchup. If your opponent doesn't have a keeper, it's just a 3-mana 4-power minion.
Sure. I mean, it kind of fits what Zoo wants to do anyways. Just
Yep.
put
So
out
Tides-
low-cost minions.
Tides returning the favor in this Druid versus Zoo matchup. Is his Innervate keeper going to be enough to turn the
Oh,
table?
that's right. How
Yep.
the tables have turned. Puts out the Nerubian Egg, which is great with his, excuse me, I'm losing the term, the Abusive Sergeant.
I think here you just make sure you take out this Argent Squire.
I think so as well. The Savage Roar, you could argue taking out the Nerubian Egg ahead of time.
Yeah, I think it's better to wait. His opponent still has to activate the egg on his own time. Wow, he draws a second Abusive Sergeant for it. That could be pretty significant.
Still going to bide his time, though. And
He wants to play around
big-
swipe when he does it this way.
Yeah.
Because if he makes the other play, it goes way into swipe.
But now Keeper of the Grove gets to pick up another piece of value, which is really important. And he also has a good 5-drop, too. He has Druid of the Claw. Wow. But he does have... he can play out his whole hand here.
I think he's got to take care of this Violet Teacher.
I think so. But how much are you overkilling him by?
I mean, you can't let that get out of control though.
Yeah, the Power of the Wilds with the tokens represent way too much. Do you value your life tap, though? I guess maybe you draw something maybe even better.
I don't. Well, what do you want to discard here? Would you rather discard the Owl or the Abusive Sergeant? And that's really the only question you ask yourself. If you'd rather discard Abusive Sergeant, you Soulfire first, so that way you can have a 66% chance to discard one of the Abusive Sergeants and keep the Owl, and go from there. So he is valuing the Owl more, and I'm curious why.
Oh, a top deck swipe for...
Wow!
That's really nice. Reset the board once again.
29.
And, Brad had the opportunity to maybe make a really big defender play, but now instead it's completely reset. That gives him the ability to play this Druid of the Claw and continue back to
Oh my
really
gosh.
stop what the Jews can do. This is
And
really
he's
good
got
for
Defender
Tides.
in his hand, and Tides just drew Black Knight. This match may be crumbling apart.
It's
for
just
Brad.
revenge, you know why? Because this is
Yep.
exactly what Tides felt like when he was playing the Zoo and Brad was the Druid player. It was like every single answer that Druid drew was the perfect response to what Zoo was throwing at him.
Yeah. I think you have to drop this in taunt mode, right? The Druid of the Claw?
Yeah, I think if you put it in charge, it's too much.
Oh
Whoa.
my gosh, he undervalues the Black Knight because his opponent's playing Zoo. So it's like pretty rare that your opponent gets taunted up in this matchup. Honestly, I don't think this isn't like a bad play. This honestly, it's probably the right play at the end of the day.
True, fair enough.
It's tough to rely on you. It's tough to think your opponent is going to taunt up minions in a Zoo deck. Like
Yeah.
it's going to happen sometimes, but it's not going to happen very often.
And you also don't really get much value even if they do drop something like a Void Walker, right? You're just trying to get ahead of it so that way you can punish whatever comes out.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. It's just sometimes you just want to see the Black Knight ruin people's days.
It's important to get the 4-5 on the board at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
Especially in a matchup
Brad.
where you're constantly struggling from behind.
Brad draws a knife
Wow.
juggler. He can
This could
unload.
Changing things.
Let's see. Does he get a really good juggle?
I think he should life tap here before anything. Unless he intends to play his whole hand, he should definitely life tap first.
I think the Hour and Beak still represents something really nice that you can kind of save.
Is he going to Void Tear? He's going to Void Tear just the Creeper.
Huh. Wait. If Tides top decks an Innervate, though, he has
Yeah.
combo. So that could just end the game. But, you know, he's going to try to go for this double juggle on the Ancient of Lore, potentially, or to the face. Either one is nice.
He wants to hit face.
Oof. Wow.
Wait,
Three juggles to the
Did all
Ancient.
3 juggles hit the Ancient?
Yep. All 3 juggles hit that Ancient.
Did Brad already attack with the Defender of Argus?
He did. So
Oh
there was
my
no way.
gosh.
Yep. So he actually did that out
Just
of
waited
order.
on the Defender of Argus
Yeah.
and killed the Ancient. Oh my gosh.
That's really unfortunate. That's too bad.
Wow, Tides is in a really peculiar spot too.
He's gonna try to push for a lethal.
I actually,
play.
I actually really like this Savage right here.
Okay.
Oh well, that's not what I thought he was gonna do.
I thought he was gonna set himself up to combo next turn.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. This he's still set up to combo though.
Yeah.
At this point, he's like this is a two-pronged attack where he's starting to choke his opponent out of the game, and he's starting to threaten lethal at the same time. But the
Yep.
lethal is so much more hidden when he uses this Savage Roar, so his opponent isn't thinking that he always has combo. So that may influence his play as well. So a lot of different things are coming into effect here. It's a little bit less aggressive. Tides is he wants to control the board.
Yeah.
So he's giving himself a lot of options at this point.
I think it's correct. As the token druid, as much as you like being aggressive against decks like these, you are the control player.
Yeah.
All right, Nerubian Egg. Now he goes for the trade. And once again, jockeying for position. Keeper of the Grove off the top. That's also very nice to silence this Nerubian Egg.
I think he charges here. I mean, you have to charge. You just have lethal next turn.
Yeah. And not to mention you have minions, so he's forced to clear. He already played a Defender of Argus. He's going for versatility, though. The Harvest Golem allows the... It just represents, again, another sticky minion, so that way you can get combo off. How does Brad respond? He has a Defender of Argus, which is very big. Especially... Oh my god, wait. The Soulfire allows him to go for a full board clear? Holy
And
crap.
protect himself.
Oh my
gosh.
god, that is so disgusting. Are you serious?
Wow.
Whoa-wee.
What just happened?
I think Zoo just showed why Zoo is so powerful.
He just went from nothing to 3 taunts and a full board, basically.
Oh my god, what a crazy swing. See what is Tides able to get here.
Ooh,
Well, he does get a Wrath. Force of Nature could be used to clear. He wants to kind of minimize damage as well. He can kind of put... I think... Whoa, what's up?
I think this Druid of the Claw is going to go taunted.
I think so. Again, force your opponent to kind of play inefficient. But
Yeah,
then
this
if
is
Brad top decks him like Doomguard,
Oh my gosh. Does
I
Brad
think-
have Black Knight?
he has power overwhelming.
Oh my
Double
gosh.
power
2
overwhelming.
power overwhelmings.
What? Okay, so
How
he's
on
gonna
earth?
lose some of his taunters. Now keep in mind that Brad still is a little bit on the clock because he's can't just keep tapping freely every single turn.
Right.
Oh man, if Tide's able to kind of respond to this,
think
he's gonna use the force of
he's gonna-
nature here. He realizes he's kind of on tight ropes.
Oh, he's not gonna combo.
No, I think he's just gonna go for a classic strangle. There's no need to kind of like rush it. You know, you go for the full bow clear
Keep the
on
Hawks going.
Zoo.
Okay.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. What does Brad do? Now, Power Overwhelming is really bad usually with an empty board and a Doomguard top deck. Unless he has something like Leroy. But he's out of his Soul Fires. A Doomguard top deck!
Oh my gosh. He's out of Soulfires, right?
He's gonna tap himself, and I think that puts him in range, though. Doesn't that put him in range?
3. 3 plus 6 plus 1.
Oh my god, that's 10 damage.
Oh my gosh.
Force of Nature for Tides!
Wow,
This
that
series
is
is
a
over.
huge draw.
This series is over, but it was super close and down to the wire. As Tides, he didn't look very smiley when that happened because that was too close for comfort.